Okay, so today's webinar focuses on our mindfulness and life coaching program for people on low incomes that's called This Way Up. Tim is the project leader, and he'll be talking to us today about the program and how it's adapting during the pandemic. So just to let you know a little bit more about QSA, if you don't already know, we've been taking action against poverty for more than 150 years. We work with people on low incomes in East London and around the UK to make a practical difference in their lives. We do this by creating services wherever they're most needed. And we work with people in an empowering and holistic way, which you'll definitely hear more about today from Tim. We were founded by Quakers, but we're an independent charity, and we're inspired by Quaker values like equality. We provide crisis support for those unable to afford funerals or furniture. We also run a supported housing project for young adult carers, and we empower people to manage money, improve their resilience, and even cook healthily on a budget. So we do a variety of things, and today you'll be hearing about one of those projects to do with improving resilience. Thank you. So I'll hand over to Tim, who will now lead us in his talk. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Rachel, and good morning, everyone. Lovely to be with you on this gorgeous day. Wow, what a day, what a week of weather. It certainly is here in London anyway. Hope it's good where you are. So yes, I'm Tim Segala. I run This Way Up, the life coaching and mindfulness program for Quaker Social Action. And I'm going to tell you, I'll give you a little intro to what the program is and does and what we've been up to for the last 8 years of the program, and then I want to tell you about what we've been doing during this COVID-19 situation we find ourselves in. And I'm really looking forward to telling you about that because it's been a hugely rewarding thing to do. So just from a personal point of view, but it seems to have really gone down well with the people that we work with. Before I get into any of that, in some ways, as the ideal introduction to the program, and because many of you, maybe all of you, I don't know, but I should imagine many of you are Quakers, that this will be something familiar to you. I just like to invite us to take a moment for quiet before I tell you some stuff. And this is very apt because it's a big part of our program, mindfulness training, allowing our attention and awareness to come inwards. So I just invite you, without worrying too much about how you're sitting or whatever, maybe just taking a moment, just gently closing your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so, or lowering your gaze, just to allow the awareness to come into your body and into this moment. This is such a big part of how we work with people on this program, which I'll tell you about in a moment, but let's just experience this together. Perhaps particularly noticing the contact that your body makes with whatever it's touching. And allowing your awareness to include your whole body. Including your legs and arms. And belly, spine and chest, neck, throat, head and face. Your whole body, breathing. We spend so much of our lives in the world of our thoughts and emotions, and we forget we have these bodies. So just taking a moment to really notice your body and your breathing. Allowing yourself to really be here And maybe just connecting with a sense of what's really brought you here. What's your curiosity? What's your interest? And then when you're ready, you can gently bring yourself out of this mini meditation and reflection in your own time, gradually opening your eyes. So I hope that's helped you feel more present, more ready for what follows. And I wanted to give you a taste of how we work with people, because I'm going to tell you some stuff, but in some ways, having that experience will make what follows make more sense, give it more context. So yes, This Way Up is a program of life coaching and mindfulness training. And it's really designed to help people, the people that QSA is there to help people on a low income who are struggling with a range of difficult circumstances or past experiences. And it's really designed to help people find their own natural resources to take charge of themselves and their lives, to feel more confident in themselves, to access their natural well-being, resilience, to handle stress, and ultimately all of that being in the service of helping people to take positive steps towards whatever they want to change in their lives, whether that's to do with work or training, improving relationships, friendships, getting into new interesting activities. And we do that through two elements of the program. One is mindfulness training, and that was a little taste of how we work in mindfulness training. Which is really about using the very tried and tested processes of mindfulness, which of course have their roots in very ancient traditions, but have been used more in modern secular settings to help people access their best resources for taking care of themselves, for dealing with stress, for thinking clearly. As demonstrated by the recent neuroscience in the last 20 years. So we do that in a group, and then each person also gets 3 sessions of one-to-one life coaching, which is really a process of helping people to explore really freely who they are, what matters to them, what they want more of in their lives, and what they want to move away from, and helping them to really see that quite deeply, but then to take practical actions to make the changes they want. Since 2012, I'm just going to share a slide at this point, because when we get into figures, it's useful perhaps to see these in front of you. So just bear with me while I share my screen. Where's it gone? There we are. There it is. Sorry, I managed to turn my video off by mistake there. I didn't mean to do that. There we go. I'd like you to see me as well. So yeah, life coaching and mindfulness, as I've spoken about. And since 2012, when we started the program, so that's 8 years ago, we've run 16 tranches of the programs. We basically run 2 per year. And in total, we've worked now with 260 people. It's roundabout, it's varied over the years, but at the moment we're running 16, we have 16 participants per tranche, but we have in the past had larger numbers. But we've sort of reached what feels like an optimal number at the moment. And we try to be very light on the evaluation that we do, because in a way we want this program to feel different from so many of the standard offerings that are available to people on a low income, where they often feel overly processed by the system. And so we really try to be very light on, what we're sort of, we don't want people to feel like they're, too much in a study. So essentially, we only track one statistical thing. We track other things in a more kind of qualitative way, but statistically, the only thing that we track is people's well-being, and we use the World Health Organization's well-being index. So we do that at the beginning of the program and at the end of the program. And obviously I'm biased in how I'm describing this. I should just let the figure talk for itself rather than talking it up. But I do think this is quite revealing. So the average score at the beginning of the program for people taking part in this is just under 9 out of 25, which is considered sort of mild to moderate depression. And the average at the end for people taking part is just under 15 out of 25, which is above the national average, or maybe just slightly, yeah, just slightly above the national average. So it represents a 68% increase in well-being. That's averaged out over all 8 years of the program. So I'm just going to come out of that and just say a few more things, and then I'll go back into the presentation. So I hope that gives you a sort of overall sense of what this program is and is about. And I want to now say a few things about what we've been doing during this lockdown period. So in fact, the most recent tranche that we were running in February and March, we had to stop short, basically, but I'll say a bit about that in a moment. So yeah, we ran 4 of the group sessions, and then lockdown came, so we couldn't continue the group sessions, but we were able to complete almost all the one-to-one work online, and I was very pleased and surprised at how quickly people adapted to going online, as I'm sure is the case for many of you. But yeah, obviously we had to stop the groups, but fortunately we just saw a simple solution to this, so that people didn't feel like they were being shortchanged, if you like, and missing the opportunity to do some really transformative work. So we said, look, all of you, we can't do more one-to-one work because we don't have the resource for that. We'll complete that now, but all of you can come back to repeat the whole of the group part of the program when we next run it in the autumn. So we'll basically just have a much larger group for the group part, but that's totally fine. We've had larger groups before. So all of them will, get to, in fact, revisit the material, most of which they started to look at in the autumn. But we kind of felt like, when I was in discussion with Judith, our boss, we kind of felt like, well, wouldn't it be great to do more than that? It's good that we are able to meet that need in sort of deferring the group part of the program. But we kind of thought, well, look, all the people that have been on this program over the years, I bet some of them are really struggling with this right now, because just everyone is. And so wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to offer something to anyone who's been on this program so far? So yeah, we were really keen to step up. And so initially what we did, and I'll just share my screen again, as a starting point, was just to offer some resources online. So we put together the guide to mindful well-being, and there's an awful picture of me delivering a video. So yeah, we put together on the QSA website, so I can't scroll down because it's just a still image on the presentation, but there was a whole lot of resources there, but basically about using the principles of mindfulness to adapt to the current challenges. But we felt like, well, that's nice, but I bet we could still do more. So then we thought, okay, well, how about we run a taster session on Zoom? Obviously, video being the logical next place to go with this. So we ran an initial hour-and-a-half Zoom session, which we invited everyone who's been on this way up, so all 250 plus people, to come on. And that was back in towards the end of April, I think. No, maybe earlier. I've lost track of time, but I think mid-April. And we were absolutely delighted and surprised about how many people came. You know, given the sort of challenges people are facing, we were surprised that we had 30 people coming to that. Now, I know that is out of a population of 250, but to me, that said something. And people showed a really big appetite when they came for this kind of support to help them with the various struggles that they're facing at the moment, which are primarily anxiety, social isolation, relationship challenges, old habits kicking back in, and of course, sadness and loss. And so on the back of that really successful taster session, you know, I chatted again to Judith, and I know Judith was just really keen to step up and offer something, recognizing the unique nature of this situation and how important it is to QSA to be able to demonstrate that it's responding to the needs of the people it works with. So we actually went much further than we'd originally thought, and thought, okay, well, let's put together a specially designed one-off 6-session course. So rather like our course in our program, which is 6 sessions, let's put together a 6-session, quite intensive course where we look at the principles and practices of mindfulness and resilience and apply it to what we're experiencing now. So that's what we've done, and we're 2/3 the way through delivering that. And again, obviously, I'm biased in saying this, but hopefully it's a reasonably objective thing to say that it seems to be going down extremely well. So the participation levels are high. They're not as high as that taster session, but that doesn't surprise me. But we've got 23 people regularly coming, and they're coming every week. So there's no drop off, which is remarkable, actually, for this sort of work, I think. But I think perhaps more significantly is the really palpable sense of mutual support and community that is arising out of these sessions. So it's a really high level of engagement and interaction. And myself and my colleague Michelle, who I run this program with, and so we're running the sessions as well, every session we come away and we're so pleased and excited and touched, because I don't know about you, but it seems to be almost a common practice on Zoom, which people are enjoying, of giving each other a really good wave at the beginning and end. And there's lots of chat between people in the Zoom chat box, really mutually supportive. So I'll just share a slide again to give you a sort of flavor of what these sessions have been covering. So this is a page which, again, I can't scroll, but it's a big page which includes all the material that we're covering throughout the program. So it's like a private website page that people can access after the sessions to review the material. So we give a summary of what we're covering in each session, and then there are lots of guided meditations and other resources to help people practice in between the sessions. But just to show you broadly what we've been covering. So in session 1, we looked at establishing more ground beneath your feet. So this was particularly around building more positive routines and structures in people's lives and using mindfulness-based processes to really deepen that. And then in session 2, we looked at working with your mind. So we were revisiting material that they would have been familiar with from the course, particularly around working with difficult thoughts and difficult emotions and helping people develop more a sense of acceptance, but also a sense of wise control over aspects of their thinking and feeling. And then in session 3, we looked at deepening self-care. So really helping people to find a range of habits and practices that really take care of themselves, nurturing themselves, using this time, despite its difficulties, to cultivate a range of really positive mental habits and behaviors that take care of oneself. And then in session 4, You're Not Alone. So we were looking at how to best navigate the challenges of some of the relationships that people might be experiencing at the moment, and how to cultivate a more helpful approach to communication. So we looked at something in particular, which some of you may be familiar with, called nonviolent communication, which I think is really highly relevant during the times we're experiencing at the moment. So that was the session we ran last week. And then this coming week, we're going to run what I'm calling a mini retreat. So it's still just an hour-and-a-half session, but it's going to be a series of kind of meditations and mindfulness processes that will give people the opportunity to absorb all the material we've covered so far in the program. So there won't be much input from us. And then in the final session, we'll be helping people to review and plan for their next steps based on everything they've heard so far. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I'll just add one thing, and then I know that we can open out for any comments and questions about this. But I mean, I just wanted to say something about the future. To state the obvious, and I'm past master at stating the obvious, you know, the experience we're going through at the moment is having very far-reaching consequences for the whole of society. And I think one very significant aspect of this that is quite well documented in the public domain is the impact on people's mental health. With the new reality of increased social isolation for some, or for others having to spend longer periods with people, and the sense of perhaps cabin fever, particularly for people that QSA works with, who may be living in cramped and poor housing conditions. So these all present significant psychological challenges alongside other factors like loss of employment, financial hardship, anxiety about the future, and so on. And as you may have heard out there in, you know, on the news and in the public domain, there is pretty substantial evidence that people on low incomes are disproportionately affected by all of this due to existing health inequalities and other inequalities just being exacerbated. And I think we're likely to see a very long ripple effect from all of this in the coming months, affecting the people who are most likely to take part in our programs. And so, you know, it'll be interesting to see what happens next, what QSA is able to do. I think we've established something that could be a model for the future, where we're able to offer continued, more ongoing support through Zoom and video technology, because it's so much easier to adapt to, for people who've been on our programs. And so I'm really interested to see how that unfolds in the coming weeks and months.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much, Tim, for today and for providing all that really great insight, and particularly about the new project that you've been running since lockdown. And yeah, it sounds like it's been much needed at this time. So thank you. And thank you everyone for your questions, and thank you for coming this morning. This webinar is connected to our coronavirus appeal at this time. So thank you again. If you've already made a contribution, we're really grateful. And after this session today, if you can and you would like to, please do visit our website. And if you can, we'd really appreciate any support you can make. Thank you.